Chapter 1. The devil is hiding behind the details. In the court, a person gave a testimony that Sewol Ferry was rolling at 0840. She was rolling 5 minutes before the accident and then slowly fell down, and refrigerators fell down, too. In fact, the term of zigzag also appears in their testimonies. What's important is that what happened from 5 minutes before the accident. I showed you this picture in episode 1. This picture is the expression of the tracks of Sewol Ferry based on HDG. For easy understanding, this picture may be expressed in another kind of picture. This is a new expression of previous picture. As shown, Sewol Ferry turned 3 times, including the largest turn at the last. What's important in this picture is that, according to the HDG, the angles were stepwise changed as shown, but, according to the COG, the angles were sharply changed as shown. The data was verified based on angles until now. However, from now on, the data will be verified based on positions. According to the data reported by the government, not only the positions of Sewol Ferry but also the time, speeds, and COG may be identified. That is, it's possible to know the duration, direction, and speed of sailing. In the picture, white circles show expected positions of Sewol Ferry obtained by the aforesaid method. The ships in the upper part and lower part show the positions where foreign AIS information is consistent with government's AIS information. Foreign AIS information is not dense. Therefore, I had no way but to trust government's data, and I wanted to verify government's data. Yellow arrow means the section where veering was done by 4 degrees for 6 seconds. Such angle change requires veering the helm by 15 degrees at least. Blue circles mean the positions reported by the MOF. Before the sudden angle change, the positions reported by the MOF are almost same with the expected positions, within GPS error allowance. And then, an expected position in the sharp turn section is omitted. As shown, successive 3 positions are concurrently shifted downward. As the result, she had to sail 134 meters between the positions of 3 and 4 for 6 seconds and had to sail 226 meters between the positions of 6 and lower ship position for 30 seconds. As shown, the maximum speed of Sewol Ferry was 21 knots, but she showed 43.5 knots of miracle speed and then 14.6 knots of speed. In fact, it's impossible to reduce the speed from 43.5 knots to 14.6 knots during such a short time. As the 3 positions were concurrently shifted, the distance of this section is increased but the distance of this section is reduced. As shown, when such 3 positions are shifted downward, the distance is increased and the sharp turn becomes smooth. As AIS has no ability to consider abnormal information, it has no way but to generate an irrational speed to meet such information. This irrational speed is not related with GPS errors. When considering the track of UPLI, satellites were transmitting proper GPS data to UPLI. Furthermore, in case of a ship, GPS errors cannot be so large. GPS errors of a ship do not exceed 1 meter. This is a second suspicious section. As shown, HDG data shows small turns but COG shows large turns. The first 3 expected positions are consistent with the positions reported by the government, but the position of 4 reported by the government contacts with expected position 5 as shown. This kind of phenomena repeatedly appears in the sections that have the suspect of sharp turns. Let's see the next step. As shown, there is an empty expected position. This is a section that is suspected to have a large turn. The position for 4:58 seconds later contacts with the expected position of 3:52 seconds later. As shown, Sewol Ferry sailed 9.3 meters for 6 seconds and then sailed 104 meters for the same 6 seconds. The speeds are irrationally changed as shown in the suspicious sections as if the data protects the crew. Therefore, same kind of irrational speeds are obtained again. As the result, a sharp turn becomes smooth by the same method. This is the analysis result of the tracks reported by the MOF. In relation to 29 seconds of data loss section, the crew asserts that they veered the helm during straight sailing from 140 degrees to 150 degrees by a proper method, just before the accident. Let's look at this yellow rectangular section carefully. COG shows that Sewol Ferry sailed to the left like the expected positions in the picture. The first 3 positions are located similar with expected positions although they are somewhat lower. And then, next 3 positions appear but a position is quite different from expected corresponding position. Therefore, Sewol Ferry had to sail 9.6 meters for 6 seconds and then 108 meters for the same 6 seconds. As shown, 3.1 knots of speed appears and then 35 knots of speed appear, due to aforesaid shift of positions, resulting in optical illusion that Sewol Ferry sailed almost straight. Therefore, it is suspected that somebody might move the positions intentionally. Sailors do not accelerate a ship when veering the helm. The reports made by the governments are mostly focused in the section on which AIS information is unavailable. Therefore, we had no opportunity to review the sections before and after the data loss section. The data on this point and this point are available in foreign data. As the information on the time is available, the speed was obtained and was 18.3 knots. However, according to the report by the MOF, Sewol Ferry sailed at 17.5 knots and then 16.5 knots at these 2 positions, respectively. If true, Sewol Ferry might be accelerated for a while in this section. Therefore, I identified the positions based on Jindo VTS data, but this data did not give me the information in detail. The information was available every 20 seconds. Anyway, Jindo VTS data showed about 17.6 knots of speed in about 725 meters of section for 80 seconds. Jindo VTS data showed the evidence of acceleration, too. The MOF reported the tracks in the most detail. As shown, about 18.3 knots of speed appears, too. When considering the report by the MOF, about 21 knots of speed is required in data loss section. However, sailors say that such rapid acceleration and deceleration isn't possible for a 6,000-ton ship like Sewol Ferry in as short as 29 seconds of section. This is the final track sheet reported by the MOF. This picture shows the time before and after the report made by the MOF. The MOF corrected the time with maintenance of previously reported coordinates, saying that the temporal differences in the time to send and receive information were corrected. By doing so, the time for data loss section is increased and the speed is reduced. I verified previous data using the final track sheet. The evidences of acceleration exist still. As shown, 17.8 knots of speed is required even in assumption of a linear track, but this speed is still higher than 16.5 knots of speed reported by the MOF. A sailor said during an interview that no ship is accelerated during veering the helm, that the speed may be reduced rather than increasing, and that the crew of Sewol Ferry should be investigated to identify the reason for acceleration. Nevertheless, it's not clear whether the prosecutor and police will investigate the crew to identify this issue.